The morning I woke up, the air in the bedroom felt suffocating, like I'd spent the night with a stranger, breathing someone else's exhaled breath. The dim light seeping through the curtains spread across the walls like a gray haze, filling the room with a silence I didn't recognize. The metallic clicking of the radiator was different than usual. For the first time, it didn't sound like a rhythm. It sounded like a warning. I sat on the edge of my bed. When the cold wooden floor touched the soles of my feet, something inside me shuddered. There was a tension I couldn't explain weighing on me, like someone had placed an invisible, heavy stone on my chest while I slept. As I walked down the stairs, the smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen. Normally, the scent of coffee gave me that small happiness of starting the day, but that morning, the smell was off, too bitter, too sharp. Even the aroma carried unease instead of comfort. When I pushed the kitchen door open, I saw Lena. Her back was to me. She was on her phone, wedged against her shoulder, whispering. Her tone was measured, controlled, but you didn't need to be a doctor to hear the tension underneath. Yes, today, the doctor will be ready. The paperwork is done. After the evaluation, the process moves forward on its own. No, he won't cause problems. He's too tired now. She went silent the moment she noticed me. Then she turned, plastering a fake warmth on her face as if she hadn't been speaking at all. "Richard, good morning. Your coffee's ready." A forced smile. She set the phone on the counter. The screen was still glowing. She quickly flipped it over. When I picked up the coffee cup, the cold shocked my palms. There was no steam. Lena had never given me cold coffee, not in 10 years. Every morning there was always a slight curl of steam rising from the cup. Small details exist. They're always the ones that gnaw at you. "Are you okay?" she said. "You've been a little distracted lately. As people age, they start mixing things up without realizing it." She smiled lightly. "Maybe it's time for a little checkup." Checkup. The word slipped from her lips so naturally, as if she'd been waiting years to say it. A voice inside me screamed, "I'm not losing my mind." She wasn't looking at me when she said it. Her eyes wandered to the glass above the sink, to the yellow leaves swirling in the wind outside, like I was just an unnecessary footnote in her plan. "What am I mixing up?" I asked. She didn't answer, just smiled. That smile held no warmth, like she was rehearsing something that was about to happen. I took a sip of coffee. It burned my palate, bitter, a strange kind of bitter. I took a deep breath. In that moment, a feeling washed over me, one I couldn't name, but one that forced me to say something. Sometimes life opens a silent pit for you, and even when you're about to fall in, no one notices. The only thought that crossed my mind in that moment was, while I'm falling, I don't want someone else to fall too. That's why I believe telling my story had meaning, because even inside lives that seem peaceful from the outside, there are silent screams no one can imagine. I set the cup down, got up and headed for the door. Just as I was about to leave, I heard Lena's whisper behind me. "It ends today." I don't know who she was talking to, but those words stayed lodged in my throat like a sharp blade. Outside, when I opened the door, a cold October wind hit my face. The air was trembling and gray. The sky hung heavy, like someone who'd been wanting to say something for a long time but couldn't. Leaves crunched under my feet as I walked toward the car, and that's when I noticed something. 2 men were standing by the vehicle, black coats, hard features, not a trace of emotion in their eyes. "Good morning," I said cautiously. "Is there a problem?" One of the men pulled a badge from inside his coat. "Crisis Stabilization Unit." My heart raced. A ringing filled my ears. Lena appeared at the door. Her eyes were red, but she hadn't been crying. I've known her for years. I know what real tears look like. "Richard," she said in a shaky voice, "please go with them. It's for your own good." "Why?" I asked. "Lately, you've been forgetful. We've all noticed." "Who's we?" She didn't answer. She looked away. The men started moving closer. "Sir," one of them said, "we've received reports of confusion and disorientation. We need to take you to the health center. Who filed this report? The man didn't answer. His eyes slid to Lena at the door. I'm not going anywhere, I said. But I'm 67 years old. I have a heart condition. My hip aches. I'm not in the shape I used to be. Someone grabbed my arm. The other opened the door of an unmarked van. A sharp smell of disinfectant rushed out. It stung my nose slightly, but I felt a deeper burn inside. Lena came closer, leaned in. I felt the movement of her lips, the coldness of her breath. This is for your own good, sweetheart. Her voice carried poison mixed with honey. I closed my eyes. For a moment, I thought it was all over. But there was something Lena forgot. A move I'd made 6 months ago. A quiet move no one knew about. And today, I was going to play that card. After they loaded me into the vehicle, the door slammed shut. The metallic echo felt like something inside me had snapped. It was cold inside, the wind seeping through the windows mixed with the disinfectant smell and stabbed my nose like needles. The leather seat was cracked from years of use, and the sharp plastic odor embedded in its surface turned my stomach. One of the men sat across from me, the other sat beside me, both silent, like they were sitting across from a criminal, not me. I placed my hands on my knees. My fingers trembled. It wasn't anger, not quite fear either. More like the trembling of a feeling you get when a disaster you never thought would happen lands right in the middle of your life. For a man my age, losing control is the worst nightmare. This is a mistake, I said. My voice came out stronger than I expected. A false report. I'm perfectly fine. The man across from me replied without looking up. Sir, once we reach the evaluation center, the necessary tests will be conducted. There's no need to worry. No need to worry? Something twisted inside me, a knot of anger, helplessness, and betrayal. I looked out the window. Lena was standing at the door. Her hands were clasped together. Her head was tilted down, like she wanted to look like she was really upset. But I saw her eyes, the twitch in her eyelids, the relieved flutter of a lie cornered. She'd been planning this for months. Everything. The sentences she'd been saving up to make me look like a defective old man. He's confused. He forgets things. He's in danger. All pieces of a narrative. A script she wrote. The van lurched forward. As the city slowly faded behind us, a deep silence settled over me. But within that silence, a move I'd made 6 months ago flashed bright. Avery Knox, a young but sharp-minded estate attorney. When we first met, she looked me in the eyes and said, Mr. Hale, if anyone tries to question your mental health, call me. Don't sign anything, and no one can take you anywhere without a court order. In that moment, my hand, still trembling, reached into my pocket. I had my phone. This was Lena's only mistake. My fingers pressed the screen with difficulty. One of the men noticed. What are you doing, sir? Just calling my daughter, I lied. If I pulled my hand back quickly, they'd suspect something. But I'd already touched the screen. Avery's number. I brought the phone to my ear. It rang. One ring, one breath, one void. Then Avery's voice. Richard, why does your voice sound like that? Where are you? The men in the van glanced at each other. Put it on speaker, Avery said calmly but firmly. Now. I did. Avery's voice suddenly overflowed, echoing off the metal walls. Now there was no one weak in that van but me. This is attorney Avery Knox. My client is currently being unlawfully detained. Taking him anywhere without a court order is a crime. If you don't release him immediately, you'll face both individual and institutional lawsuits. The men looked at me, then at each other. The van began to slow, first slightly, then a hard brake. The engine stopped. The doors opened. Cold air rushed in. Sunlight burned my eyes. When I stepped outside, my knees buckled slightly, but I managed to stay standing. The wind cut a cold line across my jaw. The men silently retreated. Lena burst out the door. What happened? Why didn't you take him? But the men just shook their heads and got into the vehicle. They didn't even answer. The van drove away, and the mask on Lena's face began to crack. I stood there in the middle of the road. On one hand, I felt the cold but liberating breath of freedom. On the other, the adrenaline still coursing through my body made me tremble. Avery's voice was still on speaker. "Richard, don't go inside. Wait there. I'm coming." I brought the phone to my ear. "Okay," I said. Just hearing her voice lifted a weight from inside me. About 10 minutes later, Avery's car turned the corner. The sun glinted off the hood, and the tires crunched over leaves on the pavement, making sounds like little sparks. Avery stepped out, young, sharp-eyed, steps determined, like she was walking into a battlefield. Lena stood at the door, waiting for her. "Finally," she said with a fake sigh of relief. "Richard's been acting so confused lately. I was just trying to help him." Avery raised her hand. "Mrs. Hale," she said, calm but ice-cold, "I'm going to say this once. Stop the act." Lena's face unraveled instantly. The real expression beneath the mask in her eyes came out for the first time in that moment. And in that moment, when I saw her true face, I understood what it feels like when someone you trusted most betrays you and your insides hollow out. Avery turned to me. She was holding a thick folder. "I found a lot in a short time," she said, "and all of it was done against you." She opened the file. The documents that came out stung my eyes like needles. Attempted property transfers, unauthorized withdrawals, meetings with a realtor, and, the most painful, a guardianship petition filed in my name. Avery turned to me. "Richard, she was planning to have you declared incompetent next week." Lena screamed. "No, that's not true. I was just—" Avery cut her off. "The $38,000 you withdrew from the business account on Thursday? Or the meeting you had with the realtor about selling 4 of his properties?" Lena's lips trembled, opened, closed, opened. No words came out. The truth spoke louder than anything she could say. And in that moment, I could finally breathe. Maybe you've been in a moment where everything you've built, every relationship you've valued, came down to a single decision. A moment where you chose between being loved and being respected. Avery's words hung in the air. Lena's lies, her mask, her fake concern. All of it collapsed and scattered on the ground in an instant. In that moment, I saw for the first time who the woman I'd known for years really was. The most dangerous person is the one who makes themselves look like a victim while committing the crime. I took a deep breath, my lungs filled with cold air. The shaking inside me slowly gave way to something else, a quiet anger. Avery closed the folder, tucked the file under her arm, and walked toward me with firm steps, gently touching my shoulder. "Richard, you're not alone anymore." Those words awakened a warmth in my chest that had been forgotten for years. It wasn't just a lawyer standing beside me. It was a human being saying the right words at the right time. Lena, meanwhile, was stepping backward, all the way to the threshold, like she thought she could hide behind the door. Avery turned to her. "Don't go inside. We're not done talking." Lena had a momentary panic. The tension in her jaw gave it away, but she placed that familiar mask on her face again. I only wanted what was best for Richard. He was acting confused. These documents, they're misunderstood." Avery tilted her head. "Documents speak, Mrs. Hale, and yours say a lot." We walked toward the house. Lena went ahead nervously. Avery and I followed. When the front door opened, the smells that spread from inside were like a broken version of the comfort I'd known for years. The polish of the wooden floor, the faint scent of detergent. Everything was normal, but mixed among them was a smell that carried Lena's tension, like there was an anxiety embedded in the house. We stopped in the middle of the living room. Lena clasped her hands together, squeezing her fingers. Avery opened the folder and laid the documents out on the couch one by one. "This is the property transfer form you tried to sign yesterday. This is the camera footage of the $38,000 you withdrew from Richard's business account. This is the audio recording of your meeting with the realtor. And this, she looked up. The guardianship petition. Lena took a step back. I was just... Stop, Avery said. Her voice didn't rise, but her words cut like walls. Lena's eyes widened, like someone who didn't know how to react when someone told her, no. I stepped in. Lena, I said, why? Just that one word. Why? Why did she try to weaken me for months? Why did she come between me and my daughter? Why did she spread lies about me being forgetful? Why did she take my car keys? Why did she trap me? Why? Lena's face had a momentary tremor. Maybe not guilt. Maybe the shock of being caught. Finally she spoke. Because you're getting old. You don't know what you're capable of. One day you might hurt yourself, and I don't want to be left alone. This wasn't a confession. This was the defense of a badly written script. I did everything for you, she shouted. I took care of you. Your house, your health, everything. Avery took a step toward her. And what did you do in return? She touched the papers in the folder. This? Lena looked away, took a deep breath. Then something unexpected happened. Tears began to fall, but I knew those tears weren't real. Those tears were the kind shed when one's own interests are threatened. Avery turned to me. Richard, we need to take urgent action to protect your rights. What are we going to do? I asked. Avery took a calm breath. First, we'll get a protection order. Lena's access to you, your properties, and your accounts will stop, even temporarily. Then we'll freeze all joint accounts. After that, we'll request a psychological evaluation for Lena, not for you, and we'll file with the district attorney for attempted fraud. Lena screamed, This is ridiculous. This is a trap. But Avery continued as if she hadn't heard her. Lastly, it may not be safe for you to stay in the house. I'll recommend you stay somewhere else for a while. I looked up. There was confidence in Avery's eyes. In that moment, for the first time in years, I felt like someone was truly protecting me. Lena suddenly became angry. What's so special about this man? She pointed her finger at me. I won't let you crush me like this. Avery, with that icy calm. Mrs. Hale, every word you say right now can be recorded. Be careful. Lena went silent. For the first time, she truly went silent. In that moment, something happened inside me. Like a hand that had been pressing down on me for years was suddenly lifted. Like the weight I'd been carrying in my chest had shattered in an instant. In that quiet moment, I heard my own inner voice for the first time. What happened to me could happen to someone else. If someone is listening to this story right now, please keep listening, because a person being methodically destroyed shouldn't go unnoticed. That sentence flowed through me. Even if no one heard it, it clarified why I was telling this story. Avery pointed to the door. Richard, let's talk outside. I walked past Lena. We locked eyes one last time. In her eyes was the panicked look of a losing gambler. In mine was the heavy acceptance that it was over. When we stepped outside, the air had grown colder. The wind cut across my cheeks, swirling dry leaves around. Avery leaned against her car. Richard, the process has started now. Today will be long, but we'll win. I closed my eyes. Should a man's life have to be defended like this? Not defending his wife, but defending himself. But that was the truth, and I wasn't going to run from the truth anymore. As I stood leaning against Avery's car, the cold air cut across my face. The sky was like heavy lead, gray clouds pressing down on me with every breath, but the storm inside me was far harsher than the weather outside. A person feels coldest when the true face of someone they once loved is revealed. Avery pulled her phone from her pocket. We're starting now, she said. Today is going to be a day that changes the direction of everything in Lena's life. In that moment, Lena was watching us from the doorway. In her eyes, anger, panic, fear, everything was mixed together. Like a cornered snake coiled up, Avery dialed a number. Hello, this is Attorney Avery Knox. We're requesting an emergency protection order for my client, Richard Hale. Yes, the documents are ready. No, the risk is high. Process it immediately. Throughout the conversation, I couldn't take my eyes off Lena. It was like our gazes were locked. When Avery hung up, she faced me. Richard, we're not going inside. In a few hours, the police will arrive, and all of Lena's access will be stopped. You need to stay calm now. Stay calm, I said, expressing the weight inside me for the first time openly. I loved her for years, Avery. I trusted her. I shared my work, my home, my life with her. Avery lowered her head. Some people see love as a tool for gain. It's not your fault. Afternoon in front of the house. As the hours passed, the air in front of the house grew colder. The wind changed direction, and dry leaves began to drift along the sidewalk like whispers. With every rustling leaf, it felt like another piece of my past was breaking away. Then a police car turned the corner. Blue and red lights echoed in the gray sky. Lena froze at the door. The officers stepped out of the car. Avery stepped forward. Officers, welcome. I have the documents here. The tall officer nodded. Where is Mrs. Hale? Lena tried to speak, her voice trembling. There's been a mistake. Mrs. Hale, the officer said. As of now, your access to Richard Hale's properties and accounts has been suspended. You're also prohibited from touching any shared documents inside the house. Lena's face went white. This isn't possible. It's possible until a court order is issued, Avery said in a clear tone. Lena's true face in her collapse. They say a person's true face shows when they have nothing left to lose. Lena's did exactly that. Her shoulders dropped. Her pupils dilated. Her facial muscles relaxed. Suddenly she started yelling, You're behind this, aren't you? Avery, you're setting me up. Avery didn't step back. Mrs. Hale, the documents. Speak for your actions against my client. If you'd like, we can also give the prosecutor a chance to speak with you. The officer stepped in. Mrs. Hale, please calm down. There's also an allegation of attempted fraud against you. The prosecutor's office will be in touch today. Lena brought her hands to her hair. This is a game. Richard should be grateful to me. He's old. He makes mistakes. She suddenly stopped. Her eyes turned to me. How could you do this to me? Her voice was a whisper, seemingly pained, but the rage underneath was crystal clear. Who are you fighting for? What for? I took a step forward. For the truth, Lena. The words fell heavy but clear from my tongue. I expected you to be a good wife. I tried to build a life. But you planned to have me locked in a hospital and take over my properties. Lena narrowed her eyes and asked, Why would I do that? Avery answered, For the $38,000? Or the 4 properties you wanted to sell? Or because of the guardianship petition? Lena bit her lip. In that moment, the last remnants of her mask crumbled. The heavy truth, even the unconfessed confesses. Lena didn't speak, but her silence was like a confession. The officer took the documents from Avery. Then he turned to me. Mr. Hale, you're safe now. Temporary protection is in effect for your client. I nodded. My breath wasn't in my chest. It was knotted in my throat. Lena started pleading with the officers. Don't take me. I didn't do anything. That old man is confusing things. That last sentence was the rawest version of the lies she'd been whispering in my ear for months. Old man, confused, dangerous. She wrote that story, but today I was rewriting it. She looked into my eyes. Lena tried to approach, but the officer held her arm. In that moment, she looked at me. In that look was hate, fear, and a kind of denial. Richard, she said, I loved you. The weight of that lie polluted even the air. No, I said, you loved what I had. That sentence came out of me like the buildup of years, like a stone that had been sitting on my chest for so long finally fell. Lena's face collapsed. For the first time, she truly felt the weight of a life walking away. As the police vehicles drove away, the officers didn't take Lena. They said it was too early for arrest, but they removed her from the house per the temporary protection order and locked the door. Lena stood on the sidewalk, her arms at her sides, her gaze empty. As the police car drove away, the wind picked up. Dry leaves swirled and scattered around me. Avery came beside me. "You know, Richard," she said, "some battles are won in court, but others, inside a person." I took a deep breath. "Which one did I win?" Avery smiled. "The second one. Because if you weren't strong, you wouldn't be here today." My inner voice before stepping into the house. I stopped. My whole body, all my exhaustion gathered at the door. A person shouldn't be allowed to be silently erased. That sentence echoed inside me. Every word telling this story could be someone's salvation. As the police car drove away and the sounds scattered down the street, I stood alone at the door. In that moment, I looked at the walls I'd lived within for years, but now carried completely different meanings. It was as if the house, along with me, had taken a deep breath and woken from a long nightmare. Avery gently touched my arm. "Let's go inside," she said. "We have a lot to do today." When I opened the door, the silence that spread inside wasn't the same silence I'd heard for years. This silence wasn't empty, dead. It was the silence of starting over. Not where the pain ended, but where an era closed. The inside of the house no longer carried the floral scent of comfort. There was no trace of Lena's perfume. Every object seemed to look at me asking, "Is it over?" "It's over," I whispered to myself, "but I'm not finished." A walk through the house. As I walked down the hallway, my footsteps echoed. Every creak of the wooden floor reminded me of past years. Lena's frequent smiles in those early days. Then the calculations she hid behind those smiles. The quiet whispers. The phone conversations. The secret documents. The gradual manipulation. All those small cracks came together and today tried to push me into the back of a van. I stopped in the kitchen. The cup of bitter coffee I'd drunk that morning still sat on the counter. The coffee was cold, its taste, its meaning. When I looked at that cup, I felt a slight sting inside. When a person is betrayed by someone they loved, I thought, they're angriest at themselves. Avery pulled out a chair. "Let's sit. I need to explain a few things to you." Avery's plans. I sat down at the table. Avery opened the folder. "Richard, 3 actions are going into effect today." "I'm listening." "The temporary protection order is in effect. Lena will stay away from the house. She won't have physical contact with you. All joint accounts have been completely frozen. She can't withdraw a single penny. She can't make any transactions without your approval. The prosecutor's office is launching an investigation for fraud and guardianship attempt. If the evidence is sufficient, charges will be filed." I nodded. These words didn't sound like victory to me. They sounded like the heavy voice of justice. Avery continued, "This incident will wear you down. The trial process isn't easy, but what you did today was brave. Many people would have given up in a situation like this." I closed my eyes. Giving up was almost what I felt when I was being loaded into a vehicle like livestock. But a voice inside me reminded me I needed to say something. Avery nodded. "I'm glad you remembered." Before leaving the house, the hours passed. The sun filtered weakly through the clouds like a thin line. The inside of the house grew dim. Shadows lengthened. Avery stood up. "Now here's what I'm going to ask of you. Don't stay here tonight. I have a guest house near my office. You'll be safe there. Tomorrow morning, we'll reorganize all the accounts." Leaving the house, feeling like a guest in a place that had always been mine. But Avery was right. I grabbed my jacket, walked to the door. As I touched the doorknob, I felt a hesitation. This house, these walls, these memories. Betrayal lived here. Love had lived here too. But now it was a house without Lena, and I was about to walk out that door for the first time as a free man. Before getting in the car, I stood in front of the house. The cold wind cut like a sharp blade across my neck. Out of the corner of my eye, I looked at the sidewalk where Lena had been standing moments ago. She was gone now, but the shadow she left still seemed to be there on the ground. Avery opened her car door. "Ready?" "I'm ready," I said, but in that word was the weight of being prepared not just for today, but for all the tomorrows. Just as I was about to get in the car, a thought rose inside me, a feeling that wasn't moving but growing. I survived today. And that feeling reminded me again why I was telling my story, so that one day, if someone you love tries to slowly erase you, you know you're not alone. If this story has any value, maybe it breaks someone's silence. Maybe it gives someone strength. That night at the guest house, Avery's guest house was small, simple, but safe. After the door closed, I took my first deep breath. I took off my shoes, walked to the window. Outside, the streetlight poured its trembling light onto the sidewalk. There was silence, but this silence was comforting. I sat in the chair, placed my hands on my knees. They weren't trembling anymore. That night, before falling asleep, I made a promise to myself. I'm going to change my life, not because someone tried to erase me, but because I decided to rebuild. This wasn't the acceptance of old age. This was the declaration of survival. A few weeks later, final decision. Weeks passed. Lena's guardianship petition was denied. Her attempt to sell 3 properties was completely canceled. Her access to joint accounts was permanently closed. An investigation for elder abuse and financial manipulation attempt was opened against her. The house went to me. Our divorce was finalized. Avery called me. "You're officially free, Richard." When I hung up, I stood at the window for a long time. The sky was clear. The silence was peaceful. This sentence passed through me. An era closed, and I didn't lose anything. On the contrary, I won back. My life, my dignity, who I am. Why did I tell this story? Because sometimes a person's scream goes unheard. Sometimes a man silently disappears inside his own home. Sometimes what we think is love is a trap. And in those moments, you need to hear a voice. You're not alone. I'm speaking here today for that reason. If this story reminded you of something, if it touched a place in your heart, know this. A person's existence cannot be sacrificed to someone else's greed. Stories matter, and they deserve to be heard. Just like your story. Maybe one day you'll tell it too.